Changing careers can often feel like the act of changing a car tire. It's a journey of acquiring new skills and grabbing new opportunities. The way we loosen the lug nuts and using a jack to change a tire mirrors the need to be hands-on and sometimes learning new skills when making a career shift. A tire change, like a career change, isn't just a pit stop on life's road, it's a reflection of empowering ourselves. Changing careers is about taking control, making sure you have good traction on your career path, and making sure your career journey is smooth and fulfilling and with resilience for the rough patches ahead.
Hello! Have you ever heard the saying that changing careers is one of the most difficult things to do? Well, let me suggest something to you. The difficulty is not about the complexity of changing careers, but it is really about the effort you need to make into doing something as big as this. Right? So not the complexity, but the amount of effort you need to put in. Now, most of my clients, when they come to me asking me about changing careers, after knowing what they need to do, there's still an element they are not so sure of. It is what? Whether they are confident enough in themselves to be able to carry out the task that they need to do. And that's what I'm going to focus on today, to make sure that after knowing all the steps that you need to do, you have the confidence in yourself to be able to make the changes necessary. Right? My name is Yuan. I'll be your facilitator for the next couple of hours or so. Now, what makes me qualified to talk about career switching or career changing? Well, for those of you who don't know me, I've been a practicing career coach since 2015. Now, before that in my corporate life, I've actually made a series of career changes, right? From IT to FMCG. You see all the career industries here, right? Along the way, I've made many mistakes and I've learned many new things in order to make such career shifts really effective and productive for my own career. And with that, those collective experiences, I've shared this with many of my clients as well. All right. So that's what I'm going to share with you today over the next couple of hours. Now, apart from today's workshop on career shifting, right, I've also conducted many other workshops like what you see over here. Right? So for those of you who are interested in attending my future workshops, please stay until the end where I'll give you a schedule and then you can sign up for these as well. Okay? Great. Now, whenever clients come to me asking me about career change, typically they fall into one of these categories, whether they are unsure if they really want to make a change, or they really don't know what career they want to change into, or they don't know how to do that. Right? So I want to make sure that I know where you are coming from. Right? So I'm going to ask you to do a poll. And in this poll, okay, there'll be basically 3 questions as you see there. Okay, what stage of work are you in right now? What stage of career shifting are you in right now? And then lastly, obviously, this is age group. All right. So please help me fill that up. And let's go through the results. Okay, so if I look at it, the majority of you, 51% of you say you want to change, but you don't know what careers to change to. All right. Then the next largest is you know what career you want, but you don't know how to do it. Okay, very good. Then maybe over the next couple of hours or so, I will focus more on those 2 sessions. All right. Then let's take a look at your employment status right now. Okay, so currently most of you are unemployed for less than 6 months. Okay, so although there are a fair number balanced between you are currently employed as well as unemployed for more than 6 months. Okay, let's take a look at the age group. Right, so The majority of you are between 36 to 49, although there is also a big group of you that are above 50. All right. So I think it's fair to say that majority of you are above 40 as well. Okay, very good. Right. Thanks very much for telling me more about you and also what stage of career switching and your career life you're in right now. All right. So that's going to help me a lot in being able to angle the topics that I'm going to talk to you about today. Now, before I begin on the topic of career shifting proper, or career changing proper, I want to bring you back to a workshop I did just last month. Right, you can see that date there. And if you are interested in watching the video recording of that workshop, please go to this website where you will see an option for you to choose that video recording. You can take a look at that. Now, why do I want to bring us back to that particular workshop is really to make sure we understand the differences between how we redesign our career and why we could consider career switching as a part of that redesign. Okay, so in that session, I basically said a redesign is what? It's basically a proactive process. It's a long-term planning, all right? And really, it is about mapping out a career path to suit our VIPS. VIPS stands for values, interests, personality, and strengths. All right. So career redesign really needs to suit who we are. Okay. In that process, we need to focus on developing the necessary skills and knowledge and experience to really support our growth and success. Okay. And really, at the end of the day, it is a really gradual process. We make incremental changes over time. All right. Okay. Then what about career change or career shifts? Now, essentially, if you look at it, a career shift is what? It is about making a significant change from what we are currently doing now, right? And this could involve moving to a totally different company, different industry, or different role. Okay? And here the focus is on acquiring skills and experiences that will allow us to move on that new career path. All right. So you can see here career change or career shift is a possibility within your whole process of relooking and redesigning your own career. Right? So that is the key difference here. So if you want to look at it in this way, redesigning is about the bigger picture. Career change is a possibility within that big window or big picture of career redesigning. Okay? Now, in order to look at career change or career shifting, there are really a few usual steps, but I'm going to break it down in a very simple analogy. Okay, so the steps that you see are over here, over here. Now, what analogy am I going to use? Essentially, it is about looking at changing your car tires. Right. So I've been really actually very involved in looking at this process over the last few months because I've actually had to scrap my old car and change to a new car. And one of the things that I needed to look at was whether the car tire was really suitable for me. So I thought I'd just bring you through the processes that I had to do and see how you can use this related to your own career switching. All right. So if you look at it, one of the first things I needed to do was actually what? Assess, right? Whether the old tires were worn out or whether they were not performing well. Right. And then I need to look at what I needed to do, what I wanted. Right, so I need to, based on that, I select the appropriate tires based on what my needs were, my preferences were. I had to then look at what are the options out there. So I had to do a lot of research. I had to make create a really short list of possibilities for me. Right? Then I had to make a decision. I had to make a choice, right? All of us has to make a choice after all that research. Choose in order to achieve what we want to have. All right. Then obviously is installing the new tires. And then this one is actually very, very important, which many of us don't really look at, is that how do we regularly maintain the performance or whatever we need to do with our tires, right? So if you look at it, actually changing careers is very similar, right? So the first thing is that we have to reflect on what our current situation is, right? Why are we unhappy? Why are we unhappy? Then we need to look at what we want to achieve, what are our goals, what are our objectives. And then obviously we need to then look at what are options available to us, right? Whether it's in terms of careers or opportunities we have. Then obviously we need to find a way to make the right decision, and how these decisions are made based on what we have found out on our research and what we want to achieve. Yeah? Obviously, then we need to develop and implement a strategy to make this change. Then lastly, but I think really, really important, is to make sure that whatever we do in our career is in alignment with what we want to achieve and what our goals are. Is that all right? Okay. So for today's session, over the next couple of hours or so, these are the few components that I'm going to discuss. And I really want you to take away a few things. Okay. When we talk about why, I want to make sure you understand what are the real reasons that you should consider when you're wanting to make a career switch or a career change. Right? And in terms of looking at options, I really need you to be able to then take away techniques on how you can identify possible options and choices. Is that okay? All right. Then the last part on how, what we need to do in order to develop a career switching plan. Right? So those are the three key learning takeaways. And really at the end of it, I really want to make sure that you have the confidence in yourself to be able to make those steps or take those actions. Is that all right? Okay. So many things to do today. So let's go straight into it, shall we? Okay. So let's talk firstly about the why. The why. Okay. So here we're really looking at assessing what we have currently going on, what we want to achieve. And I really want you to be sure that whatever reasons you have for making a career switch are the right reasons for yourself and for your career as well. Okay? Okay. So let's use the car tire analogy again. All right. So let's put it this way. When you are looking at your new car or your old car even, right, why would you want to consider making a change to your car tire or your rims or whatever, right? Can you tell me what are some of the possible reasons for doing that? So it could be what related to performance, right? Performance could be how the tire rolls, how heavy it is, whether there's the right tire treads for yourself. Yeah. There's also the looks, right? Many of us, when we look at car tires and all, we look and say, hey, I want my cars to look better on the road, right? Obviously, we have to consider whether the treads or the tires are worn out, or sometimes the rims are damaged and all, right? So really, at the end of the day, what those reasons are determines what you need to change, right? You could change your tire because maybe the treads are worn out, maybe it's punctured, or maybe the traction is no good. Or you want to change the rims because it looks better or it's not so heavy, right? Makes the car roll better. Or maybe if you can afford it, change both. Okay? So here really what I need you to understand from this analogy is this. Whatever possibilities that we generate for ourselves, it all depends on why we want to make the change that we're looking at. And when it comes to career changes, we also need to really consider why you want to make the change. So can you tell me very quickly into the chat box, what are some of the reasons you really want to make a change for your own career? Okay. Bored, no growth, no fulfillment, work-life balance, not stable, age, better career prospect, no longevity, dead end, income instability. Okay, very strong reason. Sunset industry. Okay, very good. More money, work-life balance. Boredom again, not stable. No career nourishment, satisfaction, family responsibilities, financial stability. Thanks very much for your feedback. Well, essentially, if I look at it, based on what your comments are and also based on my experiences with my own clients, reasons could fall into these few categories, right? Stagnation, dissatisfaction. In fact, many of you use the same words. Right? Work-life balance was a key one that I've seen a few times. Sometimes better salary as well, right? Bosses, colleagues, burnout, misalignment with values, insecure, health concerns, new passions, and entrepreneurial spirit. Okay, so you need to consider with all those reasons or some of the reasons that you have, is it better to what? Make a change in your job or is it better to make a change in your career? Think about this, right? It is a big step for you, right? So you have to really think through carefully which one is better for you, a change in your job or a change in your career. I just came across this article, more Singapore professionals seeking to change jobs despite cooling labor market. So what does this really mean? Well, the article basically describes that 70% of respondents said they also would like to choose a different job or industry for their next career move. And why? What were some of the reasons? So the top motivations were those looking to leave were higher wages in challenging economic environment and a better work-life balance. All right. They also included a desire to explore other interests, add to their experience, and also to make themselves more attractive candidate, and also to pursue a role or industry with better growth prospects. Right. So really, many varied reasons here. So again, I want to come back to this notion here where I go into depth about the reasons for making a change. You can take a look at that in the video again, all right? But essentially, it boils down to a difference between job and career. Jobs and career. I'm going to show you next a short video to explain the differences. Right. So there you go. Right. Job versus career. So what are the differences? What are the differences? Well, if you look at it, essentially a job is what? Reward driven, right? You change jobs because you get better salary, better rewards. Yeah? It is really considered short term because of the motivations behind change. So it is work. Basically, you work for a salary, right? And other benefits as well. So at the end of the day, a job is something that's given to you by the employer. All right. How well you do in a job is determined essentially by external factors. Okay. You may be doing very well, but if the industry you're in or the company that you're in is not performing well, you may potentially lose your job. Right. So it is externally influenced. Right. What about a career? What about a career? If you look at it, a career is driven by our values. We have a goal we want to achieve, right? It is driven by that. So whenever we change career, it's usually about how satisfied we are, how fulfilled we are. Okay? And because of that, we tend to look at careers as something that's long term, right? Because it is a vocation. It is a vocation, right? And because of all that motivation, all those combination of factors you see there, right? A career is essentially made by us. It is driven by what we want to achieve. Right? And because of that, how successful we are in our career is really essentially driven and influenced by what we do. Yes, there could be bad situations like a bad economy, or maybe the company that you are working in has decided to remove the job that you're in, but you move on to the next job, win the same career because you are able to determine your own path internally. All right. So that is the difference between a job and a career. A job and a career. Okay. So I want to give you an example of my own trajectory, my own career trajectory, just to illustrate what I mean by the difference between a job and a career. So in the past, I was basically doing account management. I was also as a marketing director. Okay. And one of the things that I found out for myself is that during those times, I really enjoyed merging the functions of sales and marketing together. Okay. So whatever role I did subsequent to that in terms of marketing, I tried to merge these two things together. Right. I also had a stint as a regional GM, as also a business development director. Okay. As far as these two jobs were concerned, my focus here, my expertise was on developing and building new businesses, right? When I was a director of admin or director of operations, right, I looked at developing my team, right, and I looked at enhancing their capability. So as a people developer, as a result of that, what I decided to do currently now in my new so-called job, which is also my career, is to be a career coach, right? Because I focused on this aspect of developing people, developing teams, right? So I hope you see the difference between a job and a career. Now, the other thing I want to highlight to you is this. There are basically four boxes here, right? A career and an industry at the top, you see there. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4. One, same career, same industry, right? So there's no change. Two, same career, different industry. Three, different career, same industry. Yeah. And four, everything changed. You change your career, you change your industry. Now, let me ask you 1, 2, 3, 4. Which one do you think is the most difficult to do? The difficulty and the risk involved in changing to something totally different in a totally different environment is high simply because you have to reinvent yourself. You have to reinvent yourself. And that takes a lot of effort and the risk is high. All right. So if you look at it, okay, if I revisit all those reasons that you and my clients have described for wanting to make a change, which do you think amongst all those reasons are really something that provides you with the motivation and the kick up the backside to make this change in your career? Remembering the four boxes, right? Essentially, is those things that are highlighted. Okay. Now, work-life balance, misalignment with values, job insecurity, health concerns, new passion, and entrepreneurial pursuits. These reasons generally provide you with the biggest motivation and the biggest push to make the effort in order to change your career path. Okay? So here I'm really looking at you thinking about what is the real reason for you to make a career shift, knowing that it takes a lot of effort, knowing that there's a risk element involved, right? If you're not prepared for that, then maybe it's all about changing a job instead. Okay? Right. I want to sort of highlight to you a particular case study which I described in my workshop before. This is the case of Jane. So why don't I show you a short video of Jane's situation, right? And after she examined her issues, her reasons, right? What she decided upon. Okay, let's take a look at it.
Hello everyone. When I came to CUN, I've worked in marketing for over 20 years and was in a senior position in my company. But I was feeling unfulfilled and stagnant in my current role. I was working on the same type of marketing campaigns for years and felt like I was not growing or learning new skills. And my company didn't have any room for me to move further up the ladder as I was already ahead of the marketing team. I really wanted to know what my options were, especially when I heard rumors of a corporate takeover. At that time, I needed guidance and clarity to consider how I could redesign my career.
When I examined my issues and reasons, I realized that I didn't need to look for a drastic change. Stagnation was the biggest issue, and I was unhappy with my career progress as well as the limited role I had. I wanted to grow as a marketeer. My difficulties with my boss and colleagues wasn't really something that was unmanageable, as I realized I had a big part to play here too. But underlying all this was the constant rumors of a takeover, something which I worried, but couldn't do anything until it happens.
So you can see from the two videos there, essentially Jane was what? Jane's issues were a feeling of stagnation. She wasn't very satisfied. She wanted a new challenge. She also felt that there were some difficulties with her colleagues and boss. And then obviously this notion about a job insecurity because there were rumors of a takeover. But after looking at her current situation, she decided that maybe a career change wasn't something that benefited her at that point in time. Okay? Now, if you want to know how she arrived at that, go and take a look at that video there. Is that all right? Okay. So, that was a very short section, right? But I think it's a very important section because you need to really think through what are the real reasons for making a career switch or career change. For whatever reasons you make, or for whatever reasons you have to make that change, make sure that you are not like this little girl running away from your problems. Okay? If you switch to another industry and the problem still persists, then perhaps the issue is not so much what you are doing, but maybe it's more about yourself. Right. So let's move on to the next section, right? On what. Okay. Here, we are really talking about what options you have. Okay. And how do you make a decision based on those options? Okay. So I want to come back to this analogy of changing car tires again, just to illustrate the thought patterns behind it. Okay. So if you look at it, when you're changing your car tires or your rims, you've got to do a lot of research and you've got to make sure you select the suitable tires for the conditions that you are going to potentially drive in, right? So based on my own research, I found there were actually a lot of things to look at, So what were these things? So things like all these numbers here, you see the size, the width of the tire, and also really the design, the look of the tire, right? Many of us are very conscious of how the tire and the rims look. And also there's this thing about, whether the construction of the rims itself, all those plays a part. And then I've not even added in other factors like whether you want a staggered setup or not, all right? So many things to look at, many things to look at. So if you look at your career switch, right? You also need to explore different career options and what opportunities these options present to you. Okay? So really, if you look at it, many places to explore. I just want to break it down into three simple areas. Okay? Firstly, obviously, what skills organizations are looking for, right? What type of organization best supports my values, and what job is aligned with my interests and my personality traits. Right? So if you look at this, these are the three areas you need to explore. Then really essentially you need to focus on three things, right? The job function, the environment, and the job task. Now, in order to be able to allow you to focus on this, then you need to look at what? Your skill sets, what you do well, your current career values, what's important to you in your career, and also what are the things that engages you, your passion, your interest, your personality, right? So really at the end of the day, it is about alignment, isn't it? It is about alignment because all those things, if you choose a career that matches everything, then the alignment here is between who you are, your personal identity, with what you do in your job or career. In other words, your professional identity. Okay? So lots to consider, right? Now, I go into a lot of detail in my last workshop on how we do this. So I don't have time to actually discuss this. But in any case, there are many ways to find this out. I boiled it down to two methodologies. You can take a look at that in that workshop. But essentially, what I'm trying to say here is this. We need to find the intersection of those four circles that you see here. Okay? The expertise, your passion, who needs what you can provide, who's willing to pay for what you can provide. Okay, so here we need to look at how we help people, and also we need to identify what benefits we give to people. What benefits we give to people. Okay, now if you look at it closely, when many of my clients do the exercises that I've described, or you can take a look at the video, many of them really sometimes come up with this notion. They say, hey, Ewan, I actually identified that, hey, maybe that's my purpose because that's really what engages me. That's what the things that I like to do and I'm good at. And this is what people value and they're willing to pay me for. Okay. So that would be my purpose in life, right? In my job, in my career. So you may find this out for yourself as well. So why don't you go and give it a try? Okay. Now I've actually extracted from that video the three essential steps to allow you to take a look at the things that you need to do for your career superpower. So take a look at that as well. All right. Now I want to come back to this notion of the risk and difficulties here. All right. So when we look at options, all right, apart from four, which is the fourth box four, right? Changing career, changing industry. You also have other options in 1, 2, and 3. Correct or not? Right? So I want to highlight to you the possibility that you could, instead of making a total change, you can actually do a career pivot. Okay, what do I mean by a pivot? Essentially, it is in box 2 or 3, right? A pivot means you have one strong leg to stand on, whether it is the same industry or the same job, right? Shifting over to a different job or the different industry. Okay, so typically, like for example, in option 2, you have the same job but you change industry, which is essentially what I did. Okay, or you could change your job, your role, but go into and remain in the same industry. That's something else as well. And for all you know, if you plan it correctly, you could then, after pivoting into either 2 or 3, at some point you'll be able to go into box 4 to fulfill your own career dream. Right? So important for you to consider this. Important for you to consider this. Then if I look at this notion of exploring, okay, you would have gone through this thing on assessing what you do well, what's important to you, what engages you, right? Then you start thinking, okay, how do I then find out what those things are? How do I then find out what those things are? All right? What are the sources available to me? What are the sources available to me? So if you really think about it, there are really quite a few areas you can look at. Make use of the resources available out there right now. Okay? But I really want you to also be conscious of another source which is available to everyone. What is that? That is what? Talking to your network, talking to your friends, people around you, and asking them, hey, what do you think about this job? What are the possibilities? How is it growing? What are the things that a person in this role needs to do? Right? Is the industry doing well? Okay? Talk to people who are either doing that same job or what? In that same industry. Okay? Right. I want to bring up this possibility here. All of you have heard about AI, right? How it help, how productive it is, and wow, it's so interesting and so powerful. Now, have you ever considered using AI to help you identify what type of jobs and career options are suitable for you? Well, why don't you give it a try? Many of you have probably dabbled around with ChatGPT and maybe other types of large language models like Bing Chat or Perplexity or whatever. All right. So give it a try. Okay. I came up with this prompt. Right. Describe your current role or previous experience. What are your activities and all that. Okay. I would like some suggestions for what roles I would be good fit for within. Maybe you can describe, what your industry you would like to be in. Okay. What kind of skills you have, current skills. Okay. So some examples there. And then what you want in that role. I want a role where I can have, then you put down your preferences and all that. Okay. I actually asked my client Jane to try this out. And this is what she came up with. Okay. She's a senior marketing person, 20 years experience. She oversees a large marketing team responsible for brand building in company's product. So that was what she was doing previously. Okay. This is what she would like to have. Like some suggestions for what roles I would be a good fit for within the tech and media industry. So this was in an exploration stage. Right? And these are the skills she had. Skills and experience in people management, team building, marketing and sales, social media marketing, good with technology. And what does she want? Want a role where I can have high impact in community in the areas of eco and sustainability issues, working and managing a large team of marketeers with Asia-wide responsibilities. So she listed down what she wanted. Okay, so this is just a very good example, right? So why don't you give it a try, right? Use the prompt that I highlighted in the previous slide. Give it a try. Now, after putting in those prompts and what you want, typically the AI, the large language model, will come up with a list of possibilities for you, right? Do you stop there? Well, I asked then Jane to actually have a follow-up question as well. So what was that follow-up question, right? Ask her, put this prompt, provide me with a list of 10 possible multinational companies that fulfill those criteria and role. Okay? So obviously, in order for this to be accurate, whatever model, large language model you choose needs to have access to the internet. So if you are a subscriber to ChatGPT 4 and all that, that will help you. Bing Chat, right? Or maybe nowadays you call it Copilot, has access to internet that can help as well. Perplexity is another one that I use very often that can also help you because it's connected to the internet. Okay? So give it a try. Give it a try. Remember, at this stage, you are looking for ideas for options. All right. So look from it anywhere you like. Look for it from anywhere you like. Okay. In order to come up with a short list of possibilities for you. Is that okay? Is that okay? All right. Now, assuming now that you have reached a stage where you have come up with a short list of possible career choices or options. Okay. Typically, I won't make more than 8 choices for you. Many of my clients really refine those shortlist down to 5 possible possibilities. Right? So once you have that shortlist, how do you then make a decision? How do you then make a decision? Well, essentially, you then have to look at how those career choices match up to what's important to you. What's important to you, what your values are, right? So remember, I said it is about alignment. It is about alignment. Okay. So, what are some possible career values you could have, right? So, typically, your list could look like this. Your list could look like this, right? This is basically a collection of some of the things that my clients have expressed as important to them, and also from what I found from the internet as well. So you could possibly have all these. All right. Now, what you need to do next is then to find out which one is the most important for you. Which one is the most important for you? Okay. So you need to rank these. Right. Now, typically, if you look at it, right, why after you rank them, you probably don't want to have too many of those criteria, because if you have too many, then it makes your decision making process a little bit more complicated. So typically, I ask my clients to nail it down to maybe the top 8, no more than 8 criteria for them. Okay, the more criteria you have, yes, the more accurate it would be, but also it makes it more complex for you as well. Okay, right? So here, for example, is a typical list of career values that you could have, right? Or what's important to you. Okay. Now, then you have to match this up to your career options, right? So, for example, here, assuming, for example, you have shortlisted down to 3, all right? In this case, 3: startup, a venture capital firm, a consulting firm. Okay. So here you list down, okay, to what extent these setups matches your career values, and then you add up those values to come up with your total score. Okay, so this is a very, very simple way of doing it. So in this example, you see here, okay, consulting seems to be the highest value for someone who has this set of values, career values. So do you stop there? Do you say, oh, I'm going to head on into consulting, I'm going to apply to all the consulting roles? I would suggest strongly no. This is the starting point for you to do even more exploration, okay? Because then you have to confirm whether that role, that consulting role, the nature of the job, the industry is really what you think it is all about. Okay? And how do you find this out? Talking to people again. Talking to people again. Obviously, you can do some desk search, right? Online resources, but really talking to people who is working in the industry, who's working in that role is the best way to do it. Is that okay? All right. All right. So, again, another quick section on how you can identify what career options you have, what choices you have, and how you make decisions. Let me show you a short video to sort of capture all the key points.
In the last few minutes, we discussed the importance of identifying all possible career options and matching them with your skills, values, and interests. It's crucial to make career decisions based on what's important to you and what you do well. Make a short list of possible career paths and do your research. Remember, your next career move should align with what engages and fulfills you. And don't forget to talk to your network for valuable insights.
So, if you look at it, this portion on identifying possible options and choices really is about gathering information, right? Gathering information. And the best way to gather information is to be very curious and talk to as many people as you can. Okay? And the other thing I really like you all to consider is if you have the possibility, the opportunity to try out some of the roles that you are really interested in, go and try it out. Now, some of you may ask, how do I do this? Well, various ways. You can either volunteer in that role, all right? Like, for example, for me, when I was trying out the role as a career coach, I volunteered to help people in coaching, okay? All right? Or you could join programs such as, some conversion programs or whatever to try out the activities involved. Okay? Now, the key thing here, as I keep coming back to here to all of us, is this thing about alignment. Whatever you have found, okay, make sure it aligns with all the key things that's important to you. What's important to you? Okay, that is a key thing. If you want your career to be long lasting, then you need to find alignment. Is that all right? Okay. Now, obviously, when you are looking and doing your research and talking to people, there are a few things you need to understand. Okay, some red flags. Don't overdo it. Okay, don't be paralyzed to say, oh yeah, there's so much information out there, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to analyze. Okay, the flip side here also is don't be too narrow. Don't be too narrow. Okay, so, like I mentioned just now earlier on, right? Typically, 3 to 5 options is a very good number to work at, okay, in your short list. Anything more, maybe too much. If you only settle on one, okay, well, if you only settle on one, then maybe you need to consider adding a couple more just in case that one that you shortlisted doesn't really work out for you. Okay, experimenting, trying out the new activities or the new careers, the new activities related to that job or the new career. Try it out. Okay. For example, for me, right, when I was trying out whether coaching was something that was right for me, I did a lot of activities related to coaching. So, for example, I worked with clients. I looked at what's the job market out there. I looked at creating material that my clients would need. I looked at what sort of processes would be needed in order to help as many people as possible. Okay, then I tried to find out whether that was something that I really wanted to do. Okay. Last but by no means least is that please, this notion of career switching requires support. You should not be looking at this alone. Okay, whether it's support through another career coach or whether it's support through your family members, right? No man is an island. Okay, one of the biggest challenges many people have is that the reason why they lack confidence is because they have limited support, right? Having support gives you confidence. Good. So we've completed 2 sections, right? Why do we want to look at career switching? What are the real reasons behind it? Okay. If you've decided on a career switch, then what are the options available to you? Okay. How do you find out those options? And how do you make decisions based on those options? Let's talk about the last portion. How do you go about developing a plan to achieve what you want to achieve? So here, I'm really looking at 2 steps, okay? Developing, implementing a plan, and obviously the next one is to how do you maintain the momentum? How do you maintain the momentum? Okay? Now, as a career switcher, before I go into the plan and the opportunities, the exploration and all that, I need you to consider 2 really, really important things that's happening out there that will influence the way you implement and develop your plan. Okay? The first one is this. Employers by nature are risk averse. Why do you think they are risk averse? Why do you think they are risk averse? Well, very simple. They want to find the best people they can afford, right, to help solve their problems. Correct or not? Highly unlikely they're going to hire someone who is not going to be of any value to their company or to themselves, right? They want to hire people who can help them, right? So what does this mean to you? It basically means that when you are going about looking at jobs and talking to potential employers at the interview stage or whatever, it is not about how good you are. It is not about how good you are. It is about how you use your expertise and your knowledge to help solve the employer's problems. Okay? Remember this. Very, very critical. Very, very critical. The next important thing you need to remember is this. Those of you who've been to my past workshops will be very familiar with this concept of what? The notion that most job opportunities are not in the public sphere. They are hidden, right? So you can see the figures here. 45, 50, 55%, 60% of jobs are not advertised, are not in the public domain. They're either in confidential openings that only internal staff know about, or maybe only senior management know about, right? Or they are very limited. They're very, very limited. Right? Now, I talked at length about this in one of my workshops called the Attacking the Hidden Job Market. So if you're interested, you can go and take a look at that, all right, to get a little bit more in-depth view of this. Okay. Now, really quickly, I just want to then make sure you understand this. Given these 2 things that's happening in the marketplace, employers are risk averse, most jobs are hidden. You, as a career switcher, what do you think you need to do? What do you think you need to do? Well, these are things, okay? And I'm going to talk about them in detail individually. I want to talk about the first thing that many, many people, career switchers and the like, all right, tackle first, okay? Is this thing about making yourself relevant. Making yourself relevant. And how do you make yourself relevant to the new industry or the new role? And this is something that most people jump at very, very quickly. Is what? They go into training, attend a lot of courses. And I talked a bit about this. They try out a few things, right? They go on ventures related to their career by internships and all that. Okay? So they make themselves relevant. That's great. But one thing I need to highlight here is this. Going for training, accumulating all the certificates that you have is only the first step. Okay? If you cannot apply whatever you know or you've learned to the employer's area of concern, then you are still not an asset. You are still a liability. You are still a risk, right? So you want to be an asset to that employer. You do not want to be seen as a risk. And therefore, the best way to be an asset is what? Is to be able to solve the employer's problems. Okay? Be able to solve the employer's problems. Right? How do you then identify this? A couple of ways to do it. I'm going to describe to you a really very simple way, right? And you can see a full exposition of this in that YouTube link again, all right? But I just want to go through this in a little bit more detail here because I feel that it's one of the critical things that any job seeker, especially career switchers, need to be very conscious of, right? So give me a few minutes. I'm going to go through this with you. All right. First things first. Many people find this as one of the very easiest thing to do, right? Very easy to list down your skills, your experiences and such. Very, very easy. What is the next easy thing for many people to list down? Is their accomplishments, right? And essentially it is how you use your skills. What are the things that you have accomplished? But many people tend to ignore the thing in the red box below. The red box below. How do you combine these two things to solve problems? Okay? And because if you're not explicit about this, then you are letting the employer or anybody else out there try to figure out how you can help them. Okay? So what I'm asking you to do is to bridge the gap for these two and be very explicit about this. What problems you solve. So if I look at this example here, extensive people management skills, track record of building effective teams, okay? What are the problems do you think you can solve when you have those skill sets, those experiences? Well, if you look at it, these are some possibilities, some possible problems you solve, right? High staff turnover, low staff morale, underperforming team. Okay? Now, imagine this. I want to emphasize this. Once you know what problem you solve, the items in the red box, okay, in this example, then you can go around searching for companies that have that problem, then you can present yourself as a savior to say, or as someone who swoops in down like a superhero and say, I can help solve those problems for you. Imagine how powerful that is. Now, before you jump the gun and say, oh, but how do I know what problems the companies have and blah, blah, blah and all that? Well, this is where you have to put in the effort again, right? This is where you have to go and talk to people in the industry or in the company, maybe even do your own desk search to find out what are the typical problems that company or that industry has. And you match it up with what you can do to solve that problem, those problems. All right? So again, you need to put in an effort to find this out. All right? Now, once you identify what problems you solve, no point keeping it to yourself, right? So you have to tell people who you are, what you're good at, what problems you solve. So what does this mean? This basically means you need to make sure you can go out and attract attention to what you can do, attract opportunities, right? Now, I talked again a lot about this in another workshop in January that I did. Again, take a look at that. Here, I'm really focusing on how do you communicate your personal brand out there so that you can attract the opportunities to come to you. Okay? And in that notion, you need to focus on what? Making sure you create awareness, build relationships, and everything you do has to be very targeted and customized to the opportunities that you are trying to attract. Right? And a key component in that particular personal branding is what? Building up your network. Network of who? of supporters, right? People who will support you through thick and thin, people who will refer opportunities to you because they know you, right? People may search the opportunities for you. Imagine that in your network, you have people who are keeping a lookout for things that they feel, hey, this is suitable for John. This is suitable for Joanna, right? They do the searching for you and they uncover hidden opportunities for you as well. All right. So building and developing your network is one of the critical components that you need to make an effort to develop in your career switching plan. Okay. Right. So in the last few minutes, in the last few slides, I've discussed all these things that you see there, all the things that you need to do as a career switcher, knowing that employers are risk averse, knowing that opportunities, majority of opportunities are hidden. Now, I want to ask you this. Can all these things be addressed by just simply submitting job applications? What do you guys think? Well, let me go through this notion of what this guy is doing, what I call the traditional job search process. Now, the traditional job search process is actually really focusing on only one aspect in your job hunt. Okay, is this last part, connecting with the employer. Okay, and because of this focus on this notion of connecting with the employer, this thing about, oh, how can I craft my CV? How do I answer interview questions becomes so critical. And many of us, many of my clients, before embarking on this notion of switching careers, were so focused on this traditional job search process, right? Where they'll come and ask, oh, how do I craft my CV so that I can overcome, I can sort of make a career switch? Well, let me tell you something. First of all, let me sort of highlight to you, what do you think are some potential concerns employers have about career switches? Quite a few things, right? So, top of the list is what? Whether you have the relevant skills, outlook, and knowledge and experience. Yeah? What else? This ability to adapt to the new industry, to a new role also becomes very, very important, right? Something they are worried about, right? Can you fit in with your new colleagues because new culture? Maybe the boss is younger than you, all right? The colleagues are coming from a different background. Can you fit in? Yeah. Did you have issues in your previous work environment? Are you escaping from your previous work? What are the issues? Okay. Salary expectations. This is especially pertinent to two groups of people. One, senior management or people who have come from a potentially high salary, right? They are worried whether you go into this new situation, are you expecting the same level of salary, right? The other group of people that they will be this factor would be relevant is if you are someone who is of an older age, senior mature workers, right? Where your salary has been built up over time. What are your salary expectations? Okay. This notion of longevity, same thing again, right? They are worried, right? Are you treating this as a temporary stopgap measure, right? Or if you are older worker, how long do you have that you can contribute to what they need for you to do? Okay, so I'm gonna sort of deal with this individually. All right, and because of this, what I need you to understand is that by having your CV and your interview, right? If you focus just on these two to try and address all these concerns, your chance of success, it won't be very high. Won't be very high. Okay? Because again, as I said, the traditional job search process is only focusing on the last lap, the connecting with the employer part. That's why I get so many questions from people to say, what do I need to do in my CV? How do I address this question in the interview? Okay. So I want to share with you what are the notion, what is wrong with the traditional job search process right now. All right. What is wrong with this? Now, it's an acronym, so it's not, I'm not trying to be rude or facetious about it. Okay. It's an acronym. So take a look at it. C, right? C stands for what? C stands for you see something on the job portal you like, you click on it. Okay. R, you look at a job description, you review it, right? Then you say, oh, it looks interesting. It looks interesting. Okay. Then A, you what? You apply. You apply for that job, right? You apply, you maybe send out 20, 50, 100 job applications and you apply for it. Okay. P is what? P is what? P is then after you send in all the job applications, you start praying that you get interviews, you get called up for interviews, that, whatever you've written in your CV or your cover letter will overcome all these concerns that potential career employers would have on career switches. All right. If you are relying on the traditional job search process, especially as a career switcher, your chance of success is not very high. It's not very high. Okay. What I'd like you to consider here is a new way of looking at things. Well, I won't say new, okay? Because in fact, I would say that this has been happening over the last 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years already. Okay. This notion of what I call the modern job search process. The modern job search process. Right? So if you look at it, essentially there are 4 components. 4 components. Okay. You know yourself, what your motivations are, your skills, your strengths. You know what's happening out there in the marketplace, right? Salaries, what are the benchmarks, what are the prospects in the different industries or different jobs. Okay. What I've been discussing about addressing all those concerns that employers have as a career switcher is really focused on the next 2 components. All right. So you can see the traditional job search process is only focused on the last bit. If you ignore the first 3 portions here, your chance of success in addressing all those concerns that potential employers have with regards to job switches or career switches, you will not be able, your chances of overcoming all those concerns are very low. Okay? So, in the modern job search process, you have to put in the effort to do all those steps that I've suggested here in order to allow you to make a successful career switch. In fact, I would even say that not only career switches, but if you are a mature worker, right? If you are someone who's been absent from the job market for a long time, like returning mothers, you need to get on the wagon of this modern job search process, because the traditional job search process, easier as it may be, will not be as effective for you already. Okay? I hope you get the message, because I think this is a very, very critical, important message for you to think about. Okay? Very, very important message for you to think about. Because as a career switcher, you need to overcome all these concerns. And the previous way of looking at the job search process, the traditional way, will not be so effective to allow you to overcome those concerns. Okay? Now, let's assume you've done all the legwork. You've developed your network, you've gone out, you've created a personal brand and all that. Okay? How do you go about addressing all this in all those processes that I've mentioned? All right. So let me focus on the first few here first. Relevance, ability to adapt, fit with colleagues, issues at work and all that. Right? Here, you need to provide examples, evidence to show that you have all those things there. Okay? You provide examples in your personal branding, like maybe on your LinkedIn, your accomplishment statements. When you talk to people in your network, when you are interacting with your network, right? You share those examples. Okay. In your resume, by the time you send in your resume, you craft those examples in terms of accomplishment statements, things that you have done. Okay. So again, like I mentioned, right? You can address this, but relying on your resume alone is not effective enough for you. You have to put the legwork in trying to address all these concerns in your other avenues, in your personal branding approaches, in your interaction with your network. You have to provide examples, you have to provide evidence. Okay. Now, assuming you've overcome all this and you've been called up for an interview, how do you then overcome all these concerns? Essentially, basic interview steps. Okay, obviously the STAR method, right? Situational, task, activity, and results. Much has been written about this. You can take a look at that, what's available online. But here, the focus here is on illustrating how you can solve their problem. How you can solve their problem, right? So you should provide examples or evidence to show that you have done something similar to solve their problems. Okay. Now, the best way to give you a strong leg to stand on is to connect your current and old transferable skills in your old or current job to the new situation, right? What have you got in your portfolio of skills and experience that is relevant to the new career that you're looking at? Right? Obviously, you can't know everything in that new career, right? So you have to be able to demonstrate that you are open to learning, that you are enthusiastic about learning new things. Okay. Again, provide examples of what the dissimilar situations you had encountered in the past, about your willingness to try new things, to learn new things. Okay. I want to address salary expectations. Okay, because that's one of the key issues that career switchers have, employers have with regards to career switches. Now, expectations here, I want to start from you as a career switcher. What are your expectations? You have to be very clear about this, right? In other words, what is the lowest salary you think you can accept? Now, I'm not saying that you should go very low. You should also look at what's happening in the market for that role. Okay? But the question here is not only about market value, it is about whether you can justify that market value given your experiences that you have. Okay? For those of you who say, I want to have a higher than market value as far as my salary is concerned, then you have to look at what value you bring to the table in order for the employer to justify paying you above market value. Okay? And here I come back to this notion. Do you have a strong leg to stand on? If you go to box 2 or box 3, if you pivot to box 2 or box 3, you still have a strong leg to stand on, right? Either you have the same industry experience or you have the same career experience, but in a different industry. Okay? If you pivot, you still have something to say about your past experiences and the value you can bring to the table. All right? Because at the end of the day, you want to be an asset to the company. You want to be an asset to the company and you want to be able to tell them, I can help you. I can help you. All right? Next, I want to talk about longevity. Whether you're committed to the new role that you're going to be applying for, right? Are you going to be a stopgap measure? So again, you have to provide evidence of what you've done in the past to say that, I've been given a project and I've done what I needed to do in order to complete this. Okay? You have to give evidence, give example. Same thing. All right? Now, what if you are a mature worker? Okay? What are the concerns? If you're a mature worker, couple of concerns, right? Whether you have a long enough runway, to contribute to that new job, or they think, hey, you are downgrading yourself, are you willing to accept a lower salary or not? Okay. Now, again, before we talk about how to convince the employer, I need you to come from the point of view of yourself as a career switcher, especially if you are a mature worker. Okay. First of all, you need to do your research and find out about the company that you're applying to. In fact, you will want to perhaps select companies which has the right culture, the right environment, and the right problems for you to solve. Okay? No point going into a company where they have no track record of hiring older workers, where the culture is totally alien to you and you cannot accept, and where the issues that they're facing in a company, you cannot help them. No point going to companies like that, no matter how attractive that company is in terms of brand name or whatever. If it doesn't suit you, if it doesn't match up with what you can give value to them, why? There's no point. Right or not? Okay. Now, the other thing you need to consider as a mature worker looking to switch careers is also looking at a couple of areas. Number one is whether the company, when they provide salary, it's not just about salary, it's about the total benefit package. Can you accept that? Okay. Remember what I said, salary, right, is not the only thing. You have to look at the total benefits to you. Right? So for example, if you as an older worker go into a role which allows you to be exposed to many people, you enjoy interacting with people, allows you to travel to a country which you have experience in and you enjoy going to that country, that's a benefit, even though the salary may be slightly lower than what you are used to. Okay. The other thing is also whether the new role allows you to have a work-life balance that you so crave, especially at an older age. Right? I've had so many clients who this portion of work-life balance becomes such an overriding factor for them that they were willing to look at a slightly lower package in order to allow them to have that. All right. So again, here it is about being an asset to the company, being an asset to the company and making sure that you position yourself as a problem solver. Okay. Now, I talked a little bit about the salary and work arrangements. I think this is especially important for older workers here, right? Because you have to marry this up with what your priorities are, what your lifestyle is, especially at an older age. Okay. For me, for example, when I embarked on this notion of a career as a career coach, right, I had to consider what is my lifestyle, what are my priorities. Would I want to jump back into a corporate life where weekends 24/7 call on call? I have to be away from the country for many weeks in a month. Is that what's important to me? What are my priorities? My priorities were my family, my parents. Okay, those were my priorities. You may have the same, you may have different. You need to understand this. Okay, if that's the case, then you need to then consider alternative work arrangements, whether it's working by project basis, whether it is working on a consultative basis, all right, or whether maybe even embark on an entrepreneur journey like what I did, where I have full control over my time and who I want to service. Okay. Now, I talked a lot about this in my workshop on career confidence after 40. Incidentally, I'm actually doing this again on the 7th of May if you want to attend this. Right? But if you don't feel like you want to wait until 7th of May, you can look at the video link up there as well in my YouTube channel. Okay? All right. So I've talked about developing, implementing a career switching plan. So what I need now to consider is this. How do I maintain the momentum? How do I maintain the momentum? So again, coming back to this analogy of the car tires. So you've identified your ideal car tire, your rims or whatever. How do I ensure that they work properly? Right? So you got to regularly check the tire pressure, the alignments, whatever not, for safety. Okay? So same thing as far as your career is concerned. You got to ensure that whatever you are doing right now is aligned with what you want to do, your goals and your objectives. Okay? So again, I come back to this notion of alignment, because really, this journey of career switching is not going to be easy for you, because there's going to be a lot of difficulties and challenges. You're going to put in a lot of effort. So you need to think about, hey, am I able to handle the rough seas that's going to come on, right? And how am I going to do this? I want to come back to my own personal example of what I did in my past. So you can see earlier on I talked about what my jobs were and what I consider my career focal points were in relation to each of the jobs. So this illustrates a concept of what I have of a North Star. Okay, so the first thing I did, which I strongly recommend to all of you, right, is to identify what is your career focus, what is your career North Star. Okay, once you can identify those career North Star, changing jobs will not be an issue. You could change into a different industry, right? If that North Star still applies, you can still do it. If you change to a different role but the same industry, if that career North Star still applies, you can still do it. Okay? So that career North Star, you have to identify that, right? Now, the other thing that you need to be very, very conscious of is what? Is being proactive. Always keep moving, right? Don't be so passive and comfortable in saying that, oh, things will not change. I'm just happy to do what I need to do. Even in my last 9 years doing this entrepreneur journey, I've had to adapt, I have to change, I have to keep up to date. Right? Even this format of presenting to you, I had to learn. And I'm still learning how to fine-tune the way I best convey what I want to say to you guys over this webinar. Okay? Keep on learning. Right? We have to adapt. Right? We have to be resilient, overcome challenges, and we have to innovate. Okay? And incidentally, all these things I have talked about in many of my webinars as well. So if you want, you can take a look at those. All right? Wow. Okay. So I spent the last few minutes talking about this notion of how you develop and implement a career switching plan and how you maintain the momentum moving forward. Let's watch this video that recaps everything.
In the last few minutes, we talked about what you need to do to develop a career switching plan and to maintain your confidence in making future career shifts. So, just to recap, here are the key points again. First off, remember it's not about you, but it's about how you can help solve an employer's problems. Think of yourself as a superhero swooping in to save their day. And don't forget, two critical things. Employers are as risk-averse as a cat to water, and the majority of jobs are as hidden like an iceberg below the sea. It's not just about finding them, but also making sure they find you. As a career switcher, employers have many concerns, and you need to address them head-on. Show them you're not just a job seeker, but a valuable asset to them. Provide solid evidence that you're the right fit for the job. So you need to be very targeted in the career you want and customize your personal brand to that new career direction. Once you are clear about this, developing your personal brand becomes a valuable weapon to create awareness and attract opportunities. Making yourself relevant to the new career and employer becomes important so that you can become their problem solver and go-to guy. Become an asset, not a risk. And remember, always develop, grow, and strengthen your inner circle. They become your own army to uncover hidden opportunities for you. And they will also be your strongest supporters and your cheerleaders too. To keep the confidence flowing for future career switches, remember to find your career North Star. It's your guiding light in the stormy seas of change. Keep your eyes on the prize and navigate your way through. Be as agile and proactive and always be ready to adapt, to evolve, to change. Keep that career map handy, and you'll be able to switch careers easily and confidently.
All right. Okay. So, few key points here, right? Again, be proactive, right? Don't be passive. You want to focus and develop on your support network, the people around you, the people in who knows you. You want them to know you, and you want to show how you help people. Okay, whether it's through your personal branding, it's through your network, All right. Personal branding, create your own news story. So again, for myself, when I started on this journey as a career coach, I started going out and telling people what I was wanting to do, what I was doing is in this new journey. What are the things that I've done? What are the things that I've accomplished? I told a story about what my journey was as a career coach. Okay? Always be prepared. Okay? There's going to be changes coming down. You have to make sure that you try and anticipate the change. If you can't anticipate, be resilient, be prepared to go along with the changes. Some red flags I want you to remember. Okay, please, especially if you're a career switcher, the traditional job search process will not work. Because there's so many concerns that you need to address, and the traditional job search process will not allow you to address those concerns effectively. Okay, you need to know what your constraints are. Okay, you need to know what your limits are. Okay, so be very clear about all these things. There are some things you certainly cannot do, right? You need to be very conscious of that. Again, I mentioned, when you're going about doing something as significant as switching to a different job or a different industry, okay, you need to look at what you can provide to the other party. So it's not about focusing on how good you are, it's about how you use your experience, your skills to help the other party. So the focus is on the other side. The focus is not on you. Okay? Now, I want to address a few common questions I've always been asked when clients come to me about career switching. Okay. So the first thing is this: imposter syndrome. So many clients I know, first thing they come to me and say, oh yeah, I'm not sure I can do this. There's so many things I need to do. There's so many steps it looks so complicated, What can I do? Well, these are some tips I've shared with my clients. Maybe it will help you as well. So the first thing here is really reflect back on what you have done before. I'm sure all of us have gone through many things that are challenging, that are complex, and been successful in overcoming these. Okay, so what were your past successes? Okay? Take a look at that to give you motivation that you can do it, right? The other thing that I really emphasize to all of us, right? Complexity comes because you are looking at too many steps. Break it down into small steps. Break it down into small steps, right? So it becomes simpler, right? And then for each step, you set a target or goal that you want to achieve. Then it becomes much more measurable, much more obvious to you. Okay? The other thing that I really emphasize to all of my clients and to you is have a bit of self-reflection. Okay? In this journey, as significant as making a career switch, we will make mistakes. We cannot be perfect every step of the way. So be easy on yourself. Don't criticize yourself too much. No self-judgment. Have some self-compassion and gratitude. Yeah? The other thing is what? Have this notion that this is a learning process. Like I mentioned earlier, right at the beginning, in my journey of career switching, I made many mistakes, but I learned along the way. And whatever I've told you in the last couple of hours or so has been this process of learning. I've learned from my experiences. I'm sharing that with you. Things that have worked. Okay? And this one I find is so effective. Is try and visualize what does it look like to you when you have accomplished all the things that you need to accomplish. Visualize success. Visualize success. Yeah? Okay. The next common question I keep getting asked is this: when is a good time to embark on a career switch? Right? Typically, I just saw some comments to say, the economy is not doing well. Should I make a career switch now? Well, let me put it this way. The economy may be not so good, but there will be some industries that are doing better than others, right? So it all depends on your situation right now. Okay, what are the current issues you are facing with, right? If you are thinking that, hey, I want to jump into an industry which is growing, then yeah, it's the right place to do, right? If, however, you are going to jump into an industry that is not growing or in fact declining, then maybe you want to reconsider, right? The other thing you need to then look at is whether you have a support system in place. By support system, I mean a few things. Number one, whether your family and friends are on board with you in order for you to make that change. Okay. Do you have a network of people that you can rely on? Right? Do you have, in my case, for example, did I have enough savings to allow me to embark on this entrepreneurial journey? In terms of sacrifices, it's not only about monetary, it's about time as well. Okay. And then whether you want to make the effort to do the things that you need to do. All right. What does success look like to you? Okay, remember this notion of visualizing success. It's not just only about having a success picture in your mind. What is the criteria for success for you? Like, for example, when I embark on my journey as an entrepreneur, I have to sit down and really consider, how long can I push myself on this journey, right? What would tell me that, yes, I'm doing well? You have to do the same thing as well, right? And obviously here is, do you have the time and the energy to make the effort to make the change? Okay. So all these you have to think about. All these you have to think about. All right. Good. So let me summarize everything. This whole what we discussed over the last couple of hours or so. Right. So we started off by talking about how we define making a career switch. Right. Significant change from a career path. You move to a different role or different industry. And your focus here is on acquiring new skills and experiences for that new career path. Okay. And we basically said there are few basic considerations you need to have. So we listed down there, and we said that in assessing, you reflect on what you have, you set clear goals and targets, you explore different career options, you make informed decisions, and then you do your research. You develop, implement the strategy, and then you make sure you retain the momentum. We basically listed down what were the learning objectives that you should have at the end of today's session. All right. So the first portion here, why? We asked about why, what are the real reasons for making a change? And here essentially it boils down to the difference between a job and a career. Okay. What are the differences? And also here, if we look at all the variety of reasons that many of you have listed down, what are some of the things that will give you the motivation to make the effort to do something as a big step as in making a career switch? Okay. You don't want to sort of jump into a situation where the same problems exist, right? You don't want to run away from your problems. Okay. We talked about how to develop our career options. Okay. How do we make a decision on these options itself? We focused on what are the things that we need to look at in terms of exploration, all right? Skills, what organization and what type of job, right? And then we said, hey, we need to look at these areas to assess ourselves, and we need to look at these areas of focus, all right? We examine this notion of risk and difficulty, right? Is it too much of a risk to jump into box 4, or should we consider a pivot to box 2 or 3, which eventually may allow us to go into box 4 after we've gotten a sense of experience and track record in the other areas? How do we choose? We want to make sure that whatever career we embark on aligns with what's important to us. Okay? And how do we decide on this? Because remember, this notion of developing options is all about finding information. And the best way to find information is really talking to people in your network. Okay? In this section, we talked about how to implement and develop and implement a career switching plan and how do we maintain the momentum. And we highlighted a couple of things that is so important for us. Okay, so important for us. Employer is risk adverse and opportunities are mostly hidden. Okay, and what does this mean? What does this mean for us as a career switcher? Right? Essentially, you have to be more targeted and customized in your approach. Right? You have to create awareness, and this is all about personal branding. Relationships become so critical for you because they are the people who would help support your efforts. They are the people who will give you information. These are the people who would refer you to hidden opportunities. Right? Obviously, you need to make sure you're still relevant to that career that you want to go for, right? So whether it's training or whether it's gathering experiences, but make sure whatever you've gathered, right, you present yourself as someone who can help the potential employer. You solve their problems. You become an asset, not a risk. Along the way, we talked about how we need to address employer concerns, especially as a career switcher. Okay, and my key message to you in that section is really to make sure you understand that the traditional job search process is no longer effective in allowing you to address those concerns as a career switcher. In fact, if you are a mature worker and if you are someone who's been away from the workforce for a long time, you should also consider looking at the modern job search process. It takes a lot more effort, but think of it this way, it is much more effective for you to address all the concerns that employers would have. Okay? When we talk about maintaining our trajectory, our ability to shift careers, right? The whole idea is alignment, right? We want to make sure that whatever we do now or in the future is aligned with what's important to us. And here again, the alignment comes from knowing what your career North Star is. You need to identify what your career North Star is. You need to be you need to be active, not passive, right? Continue to be adaptable, to be flexible, keep learning all the time, right? As a career switcher, you need to be sure that the focus is not on yourself, right? It is not about you. It is about how you can help the other party based on your current skills and expertise and experiences. How can you solve their problem? Okay. Again, I keep emphasizing on this notion, right? As a career switcher, please, relying on the traditional job search process is not going to work for you. Okay. You need to be very conscious of what your constraints are, your limits are, and please, right? I keep coming back to this. Focus on the other party, how you can help the other party. All right? And once you've done all this, you identify what your superpower is, and you would have the confidence to make the step in changing careers. Okay, now before I sort of go on and close the session, I just want to highlight to everyone here this thing that I've done since 2022. I've finished it in 2022. Right? And I just want to open it up to you. Since that time, there were over 300 people enrolled in this course. Before I sort of close this, I'm going to open this up to you on a very special price. Essentially, I've reduced this by 95%, okay, until 7th of April. Okay, so again, whatever cost, this course is really an expansion of what I've talked about over the last 2.5 hours or so. All right, so you can go and take a look at it. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee, so it's up to you. Okay, but like I said, it's a limited offer until 7th April. After that, I'm going to close the whole course altogether, and I'm going to develop a new course already. Okay. All right. So let me sort of round up by asking you to do a couple of things for me. First things first. Okay. You know that I have this thing going on. Okay. Future sessions with WSG. Okay. So the next one is on 17th April. So if you want to attend any of these sessions, go through the usual way of applying for this over the Career Grid portal. The next thing I need your help on is really to fill up the survey form. Okay, so I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to fill this up. Is that okay? All right, I see you soon. Thanks very much for filling those things up. So let me just round off the whole workshop today by sort of sharing with you some ways that you can still continue to contact me if you like. Okay, so you have seen this URL earlier on. I just want to highlight this again. My email, my website, my LinkedIn process there. So by all means, contact me in those channels. If you're interested in receiving my monthly newsletter, I need you to fill up this in this category itself. Okay, so by filling this up, it gives me permission to send you the newsletter on a monthly basis. I only send it once a month. Okay, but if you don't want to receive the email, or if you want to unsubscribe, by all means, you can do so. I will also through this email inform you about when the recording of this YouTube video, those workshop video will be up. Those of you who are interested in knowing what other options, what other services I provide, you can also come to this portion itself. And that's it.
Embark on a career journey with a fresh perspective. Take charge, show resilience, and adapt with flexibility. Recognize the career you crave and let it be your guiding North Star. Your career switch isn't a detour, it's a new adventure. Be brave, be bold, and most importantly, be you. Remember, it's never too late to chase your dreams, but you need to take action.
I came across this saying just recently only. It's by our president, okay? And basically here in his LinkedIn, he said that we need a second wave in our lives when we get into a middle age, right? Learn something solid, not for grace, but not as a burden, but as a way to keep growing in our careers, or switch to something new. And equally important, to make life more varied and satisfying as we get older. So here he was talking about learning. And I think, in when I look at career switching, it is about learning. Okay, learning what you need to do, learning how to progress further in your career, learning how to develop a happier career life. Okay, so I hope this last couple of hours has been useful for you in considering what are the things you can do and giving you the confidence in yourself in being able to do so. All right. Thank you so much. I see you soon.